So I'm going to start now, and people can join in as they do. First of all, I'd like to thank Olivier for having, I would say, readily consented to work with us on this unique webinar. It started with some thoughts around the Middle East conflict, actually, and what was happening around the world in terms of tourism and travel, alike, both inbound and outbound. And the sense was that the U.S. Continued to thrive with their own domestic and cross-Atlantic tourism, as did Europe. In Asia Pacific, we found that Asian countries were continuing, people from Asian countries were continuing to travel, as were countries from Asia Pacific areas like Australia, New Zealand, etc., moving around Asia Pacific and to the US. So that led to some thinking about what is going to happen to tourism in the Middle East and in the Indian subcontinent. The opinion that Olivier and I shared was that this is the most affected area in the world as far as tourism is concerned. Of course, the brunt will be borne by GCC countries more than by the Indian subcontinent, but the Indian subcontinent will also face a significant backlash on account of the conflict. So where does that take us? That takes us to trying to understand where people are traveling to and from which markets, and what is their interest demographically. Where do they want to go to? What do they want? Which countries do they want to go to? Largely, we're depending on, in this presentation, on airline data, which has been picked up, and we're focusing on 2 quarters, really. We're focusing on the immediate quarter at hand, which is September to December. It's not quite a quarter, but a little more. And that's the short-term issue. And beyond that, we will look at January to March, by which time the inbound season would have ended. And prep for the outbound season would have already begun in the period January to March in particular, if not earlier. Having said that, outbound and inbound have an overlap in the period September to December, because there are lots of people who travel internationally from India and lots of people who come into India at the same time. So some of you have met Olivier. Olivier was one of our star speakers at the Pata India Tourism Powerhouse, which we held in January 2026 at the ITC Moria. And we requested him to make this presentation to us again. Just to introduce you to Olivier, he started his career in city tourism in 2004 as tourism research manager for the Department of Paris Visitors and Convention Bureau. Olivier he has a master's degree in economics at the Sorbonne University, where he gained a master's degree in tourism development. Currently, he's the leader of Forward Keys, the Forward Keys Insight team, which is now a part of Amadeus. He is one of the world's most authoritative and prolific speakers on travel research and destination marketing. If you follow him on LinkedIn, he's there every day. You can't miss him. And he makes multiple conference presentations, media interviews every year, cross-referencing Forward Keys' considerable data with numerous other sources to identify new travel trends, forecast future travel patterns, reveal the impact of events on travel, like the conflict at hand, and provide deep insights into the travelers of tomorrow. So that's a little bit about Olivier. And now I'd just like to share with you what the flow of the program will be this afternoon. We will initially ask Olivier to talk about his research and what he feels are the dynamics of tourism to India, from India, around India as well. And once he's completed his presentation, we have invited two industry stalwarts, Himmat Anand, who many of you know from his days at Ponti and prior, and he started his his career in hospitality with Taj Group, and then moved into inbound tourism. He worked in Europe, where he worked in Frankfurt, London, and then New York with Sita World Travel and Jet Airways. And after he returned to India, he joined Ponti as their chief operating officer. Ponti, as you know, in those good old days, was one of the world's largest inbound tour operators. He subsequently launched Tree of Life, a bespoke chain of hotels across the country, and grew it to 15 boutique hotels, which is now part of the prestigious Taj group of hotels. We also have Guldeep Sani, who is the managing director of Weldon Tours and Travels, and which was established in 1992 and is a member of the PATA Executive Committee in India. He's also the co-chairman of the Outbound Tourism Committee of FICCI, and from having passed from Hindu College, New Delhi, he began his career with Weldon Inks, which was a family business. In my time, I knew what Weldon Inks was all about. He was the first president of OTOAI, founded in 2011, and is very passionate about bringing a sea change in the travel and tourism industry to India. Committed to professionalism with integrity, building relationships, working towards mutual profitability, imparting training, learning, diligently resolving industry issues, etc. He has also worked for the Landmark Education Society worldwide and is a frequent speaker at many industry forums. So what we are going to do is, after Olivier says his piece, I'm going to request Himmat and Guldeep to talk about how the numbers that Olivier shares with us and the insights that he shares with us are going to work on the ground in India. What's the reality check? And post their short intervention, we will open the floor for Q&As, and we'll request you to put your questions in the chat box so that we can pick up all the questions from there. Please don't send emails and other messages, WhatsApp messages, etc. We will not be able to track them, and we'd like to take as many questions as possible. We are recording this session, and we'll be able to share on a need basis what has been discussed this afternoon. With that, ladies and gentlemen, over to Olivier Ponti. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Renee, for this introduction. Namaste, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. So, as Renee mentioned, I'm Olivier Ponti. I'm the Director for Market Intelligence and Insights at Amadeus. Renee, for next time, we'll make it much easier for you. We've dropped the brand's forward keys, so now it's just Amadeus. That will make it easier. So, yeah, today what I'd like to do is to take you through a practical demand outlook for India's inbound and outbound travel. Not just what is happening, but what it means for you and for your business. In a world which is experimenting major disruptions, a real advantage comes from understanding demand shifts in real time and being able to act on it. So before we dive in, just a quick word about Amadeus. We're the travel technology company behind half of all travel transactions made worldwide. You could say that we're the backbone of the travel ecosystem. And the great thing is that every one of those interactions generates data, from searches to bookings to stays. And this allows us to do something quite powerful, to track the entire traveler's journey from inspiration to return in near real time. In today's presentation, we're going to look more specifically at 4 layers of data. Supply, that's flight schedules and seat capacity. Demand, what travelers are searching for and booking, and stays in hotels, occupancy rates, daily rates, and booking channels. And we'll also look at future signals, what we can expect for the coming month. Together, these signals give us a 360-degree view of travel dynamics, not just what happened, but where the market is going. Let's start with air connectivity, because supply always shapes opportunity. At a global level, international connectivity has grown modestly in the past 6 months, around plus 1% year on year. And this is significantly lower than what we've experienced since the end of the pandemic. This growth is uneven across regions, with Africa and the Middle East being negatively affected by key concerns for travelers in the region, such as the wars and the Ebola outbreak. Now, looking ahead, over the next 6 months, in spite of the challenge represented by the situation in Africa and the Middle East, Asia Pacific and its air capacity is expected to grow further at around 3% year on year overall. Now, all sub-regions should benefit from this growth, with the exception of Southeast Asia, which should remain stable. Zooming in on India specifically, we expect a 1% increase, mainly driven by markets in Asia, such as Japan and Hong Kong, and in Europe, starting with the United Kingdom, the Netherlands, and Germany. Capacity evolution from countries in the Middle East is, of course, highly dependent on the evolution of the conflict in the region, so it should be taken with a grain of salt. In any case, this table tells us something important. India's development in terms of air connectivity is not uniform. It is highly market specific, which means that targeting matters more than ever. Now let's move from supply to demand signals, what travelers actually want. And we look at flight searches, which are one of the strongest indicators of intent. We've done the exercise for Delhi, looking at the top search markets in Asia Pacific, and then we did the same for markets in Europe. So let's start with the search markets in Asia Pacific, which shows strong long-haul intent from Oceania. Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, and Auckland are leading the searches. We can also see Perth in 8th position. In other words, Australia and New Zealand are definitely markets to have on your radar. All the more because their flight options are also affected by the situation in the Middle East, so they're more likely to travel within the region. The top searches also include key players such as Singapore, Tokyo, Hong Kong, and Bangkok. We'll get back to these origin markets and the opportunities they represent later in the presentation. Looking at Europe now, one can clearly see the importance of the UK, with London, of course, but also cities like Manchester, Birmingham, and Edinburgh. An important caveat here, when we're looking at flight searches, we're taking all segments into account. So these figures include both business and leisure travelers, Indians studying or living in the UK, etc. This gives a picture of global demand for departures from the UK. On this chart, we also see German cities such as Frankfurt, Munich, and Berlin. Keep them in mind. They'll pop up later in the presentation. And we see major metropolises with world-class airports like Paris and Amsterdam. Getting a picture of travel intent alone is not enough. We also need to understand behavior. Stay duration varies significantly by market. Markets like Melbourne and Hong Kong show a strong share of long stays, which we've defined as 14 and more nights. Other markets like Bangkok or Singapore skew more towards shorter or medium stays. And that is critical because long stay travelers often generate much higher economic impact. So it's not just about volume, it's about value. Considering that advertising and marketing budget is limited, you may want to spend it on the traveler profiles having the highest economic impact. Let's go one step further and look at who these travelers are. When looking at future bookings to the Asia-Pacific region, it becomes clear that the high end of the travel segment, which we define in our data as the people flying in the premium classes, so at the front of the plane, that market is still going strong. All top 10 origin markets in the premium segment are recording double-digit growth, led by Japan at a whopping plus 50%. And we've just seen that Japanese travelers were increasingly interested in India. So this is great news for inbound travel operators, especially on the luxury segment. This table also represents an excellent piece of news for outbound operators, as premium travel from India to other Asian destinations is expected to increase strongly. Now, I hope this brings some encouragement to the operators who are particularly active on the corporate travel segment, as many of their clients fall in this category. Clearly, for the coming months, when thinking about growth, you will also need to think about premiumization. It goes without saying that premium classes are not going to replace all economy seats. So you still see a majority of economy travelers. So if this profile is still essential to your business, please don't despair. I thought it could also be interesting to show how different destinations attract different profiles. We've taken the example of Delhi, Mumbai, and Jaipur. And what did we find out? That Mumbai sees a higher share of solo travelers, while Jaipur attracts more group and leisure segments. And as to Delhi, it has a more balanced mix. If you operate in these destinations, a practical takeaway is that you could adapt the products and services you put forward to the profile who are actually going to visit the destinations. What is attractive to a couple may not be attractive to family and to some other profiles, for example, and the reverse is also true. Let's keep the same logic, but this time applying it to travel segments by origin. In other words, which visitor profiles can you expect from people coming from London, Tokyo, New York, etc.? Here again, traveler composition varies strongly by source market. The share of solo travelers is much higher in Toronto. Couples represent a strong segment in London. And Frankfurt is a good market to focus on if you want to attract more families and groups. Segmentation is a powerful lever for marketing. Different markets require different storytelling and offers. Now, let's see what we can learn from segmentation by age. And looking at the data, it seems that Delhi is slightly more attractive to younger travelers, which is something travel operators could leverage when deciding which communication channel to use when promoting their services or the destination itself. In today's fragmented information landscape, people will not use the same sources of information, whether they're 20, 40, or 60 years old. So it is important to have this on your radar. When presenting this data to a live audience, I'm often asked what the ideal guest mix should be for a business or a destination. And my answer is, it's the guest mix that keeps you busy the whole year round. As you can see on this chart, younger visitors tend to show a very strong seasonality pattern, mainly traveling during peak school holiday season, while visitors between 26 and 45 years old have a tendency to be present throughout the year. And visitors 46 years old and above are more likely to visit during the shoulder season. I encourage you to pause for a moment and think of how much you're taking generational differences into account when developing your commercial strategy. If you're not taking these differences seriously, you may be losing some business. Now, let's talk about booking behavior, because in marketing, timing is everything. We've already stressed just how important regional markets are in the current context. So let's try to understand better when they book. This is when lead times come handy. Travelers from Asia Pacific typically book around 30 to 90 days in advance, depending on the destination. But this varies by nationality. Indians tend to have much shorter lead times than the Japanese or the Australians, for example. This means that the same campaign launched at the same time will not reach everyone effectively. It's worth taking the time to know your market, so you deploy your marketing efforts at the moment they search and book their trip. Before is not as efficient, and later is just too late. Here's another way to look at it. In purple, you can see not only when people book their hotel, but also with how much anticipation. The lead times don't vary much throughout the year, confirming that people book their plane tickets first and then book their hotel 1 month, 1 and a half before their arrival. The blue line displays air searches and the black line air bookings. There's more movement here and several practical conclusions that we can draw. First, the most important period to be top of mind clearly is from December to February. If there's one moment in the year when your business should be visible to your audience, it's then. Second takeaway, you can see the impact of the conflict in the Middle East, which led to a drop in searches and bookings in March. However, and this is the encouraging news, the searches strongly rebounded in April. And this shows that the eagerness to travel is still there, but that people adapted their plans to the new situation, either switching destinations, delaying their booking, or rescheduling their holidays. So where can we find more opportunities? An obvious answer is by flattening the seasonality curves and making better use of the tourism infrastructures throughout the year. Whether looking at Delhi, Mumbai, or Jaipur, we can see a strong seasonality pattern, which is a sign of missed opportunities. With the right tools, it is possible to target the profiles most likely to travel during the low season and, therefore, to improve occupancy and yield. Maybe this is a specific topic we could address during another workshop or webinar. I leave that up to you, René, but food for thought. Another lever for growth is a careful analysis of air route performance. This is one of the most practical insights. By combining air capacity and travel intent, you can identify which markets represent a short-term opportunity. Typically, these are the markets well connected with your destination, but in which the travel intent is a bit weak. You'll find them in the top left-hand side of this chart, in the underused route category. In the current context, it would make sense to pay special attention to this category, because what an underused route means is that if you're running a marketing campaign today, you can start filling up the unsold seats tomorrow and drive more business to your destination. If we take the example of Delhi, there are some really interesting short-term opportunities with origin markets like London, Bangkok, or Singapore. And if we zoom in further into the mess of blue dots at the bottom left of the chart, we'll see more. Many of these are based in Europe and in Asia Pacific. We can see Amsterdam, Munich, and Zurich, for example. And within APAC, Vietnamese cities like Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City. We also have Seoul, reminding us that South Korea definitely is a market to have on your radar. And also a number of Chinese cities, starting with Shanghai and Guangzhou. We'll be happy to share the slides so that you can take a closer look, because I know these slides are particularly difficult to read. Preparing for 2027, it would be good to talk with airlines to explore whether more connectivity with North America could be established. When looking at cities with high travel intent and zero direct connectivity, we mainly find US and Canadian cities like San Francisco, Calgary, Seattle, or Los Angeles. Improving direct connectivity with these markets could be a good leverage for growth, but this is an opportunity which is often overlooked. Before we wrap up, let's not forget to take a close look at hospitality indicators. The first point I would like to make is that India is consistently outperforming the regional average, a strong signal of demand resilience. Over the past 12 months, occupancy was at around 76% in India against 63% across Asia, so the gap is significant. Second, if we take our three benchmark cities of Delhi, Mumbai and Jaipur, we can see that Jaipur is a bit underperforming, and this mainly comes from the low season period. That brings us back to the point I made earlier about the need to flatten the seasonality line. Third, the pricing. Looking at the evolution of the average daily rates, we can immediately see the huge impact of the World AI Summit, which took place in February. Since then, the rates have been slightly below last year's level at -4%, a situation linked to the various geopolitical events we've already discussed at length. Looking at distribution channels, there's no major change compared with the previous year. The bookings continue to be largely driven by direct channels, OTAs, and what we call brand.com. And global distribution systems play a smaller but strategic role. The key message here is that the channel mix remains critical to maximize reach and profitability. Let's finish this presentation with an outlook for the next 6 months for the APAC region as a whole. That's an exercise which is particularly difficult given the unpredictability of the situation in the Middle East. The picture is pretty clear though, with a slight dip from May to June and a rebound starting in July. This shows that travel demand is still here, but also that it is influenced by the global geopolitical context. On this respect, we'll soon see how the latest developments of the situation in the Middle East affect this outlook, so stay tuned. In terms of key markets, 2 origin countries to keep a close eye on are South Korea and Taiwan, as they both represent significant volumes and they keep growing at a healthy rate. Australia, the UK or Malaysia are also good candidates. In any case, looking at this top 10, it is obvious that intra-regional travel will keep playing a key role. Let me leave you with 4 key takeaways. We've nearly reached the end of this presentation. First, connectivity continues to reshape flows. Disruptions have changed the map, and India is properly equipped to keep growing in the new travel landscape. Second, growth is there, but it is uneven. Opportunities are there, but they are highly segment and market specific. Third, premium and business segments are key drivers. So I would say that value matters as much as volume. And finally, data-led decisions are essential, especially in a fast-changing environment. Successful businesses will be those who are able to target the right travelers at the right time. And as Amadeus, we'd be happy to help you achieve this situation with the help of our travel intelligence and media solutions. To get you started, we'd like to offer the participants of this webinar a free customized analysis. So if you're interested, get your mobile phones, take mine here, and scan the QR code appearing on this slide. Then fill in the online form explaining what you're particularly interested in, and our team of analysts will get back to you shortly with the insights you need. Now, I thank you very much for your attention, and I am happy to leave the floor to René. Thank you very much, and back to you, René.
Thank you. Thank you, Olivier, and a big round of applause on behalf of your audience, whom you have, sustained for the half hour that you've been speaking, and I'm sure they're very curious about the way forward. Before we get into the way forward on a generic basis, let's hear from Guldeep what he thinks about the outbound market from India, given the data that has been provided by you.
Thank you very much, René. Thank you, Olivier. It was a wonderful presentation. I know lots of time has gone into it. Thank you very much for putting that time for us. Yeah, sure. This data definitely gives us a big access to what is happening in Asia Pacific, specifically in your presentation. But I take an overall view from other data that I also have, that you said 3% year-on-year increase in the seat availability is a big boost for both inbound and outbound for any country. If you look at Asia Pacific, 3% year-on-year growth is going to be an amazing figure. India's aviation industry is also right now, going through some cancellation due to war and due to high fuel costs and all. But definitely it'll settle down. And the upswing that you showed in your presentation definitely has a future for Indian market. One thing that you said about luxury segment, India is showing up. And if you look at the data of airlines, I'm surprised. I was asking my staff that there was time when people used to come for economy class and they used to tell them, oh, if the seat is not available, you can go on a business class or a premium economy. It has become the other way around now. Business class and premium get filled up and economy is still available. At the same time, luxury segment, not only for leisure travel, I would say for the whole purpose of business travel and corporate travel and other purposes also is increasing. I told you the other day while we were speaking that I have seen in my company that some students who travel do prefer going on a premium economy because they have luggage to carry. And when you add on to the luggage, extra luggage, it comes very close to a premium economy and they have started using that. So overall picture of India's growth is showing up over there for sure. Solo travel is increasing day by day. And the specific travel is also increasing, like ladies traveling, or is a group of elderly traveling together. Your presentation was really showing that into different segments. I was trying to take the lead from there. And if we go and penetrate into that segments, we will see that there's business coming from those segments. And they are both going to online and offline agents, because offline agents definitely plan the whole itinerary for them. And while the struggle, the comparison of online is there, but there's a whole amount of business, 35 million people traveling out of India in the statistics of 24-25 shows that this year it must have gone beyond 40 million people. So there's every kind of segment available, and we have to look forward to what's happening. Definitely this war created some kind of a hurdle, but I think this is going to be a thing of the past, and I think revenge travel is now going to happen. It wasn't revenge after COVID. It was, I think, rebound. But now it is going to be a revenge travel. We're going to see that. I hope so. I'm thinking on those terms. One thing that I saw that the searches from Australia, New Zealand are a lot for India. While I leave it on Himmat to touch that point, but I think it is more of VFR and student traffic who are there in Australia. They look forward to come to India, and that's a huge market for India. We have started seeing now in our company in outbound that VFR traffic has started picking up, short holidays from us because their family, their children are busy during the weekend, during the week, and are free only during the weekend. So it's an opportunity for outbound operators to sell during the weekdays. So that's definitely, and a very good point that you touched is low season and underused routes. We should target that because every time a repeat traveler comes to us, he's always asking us, where next should I go? And we should be ready to give that answer to them because that's the beginning of when they start working with you. Hotel occupancy above 70% is a very big figure for India. And I'm sure that this occupancy is increasing day by day with the investments coming in. Russia, Malaysia, Taiwan, New Zealand, Vietnam, United Kingdom, Australia, South Korea, Hong Kong, and Philippines are to be seen in that context. And to sum up, I will definitely say opportunity remains across Asia, where these opportunities are going to arise. The business and luxury segment is definitely going to be the boom. The rebound is on the way. We should look forward to it. Thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Kuldeep. Again, ladies and gentlemen, please post your questions in the chat box so that Olivier, Himmat, and Kuldeep can respond to them once the session is over. Himmat, we'd request you to take the lead now on the inbound perspective.
Yep, thank you. So let me start by, I've been making some notes while Olivier was making this fascinating presentation. And he made one very interesting, amongst the various interesting things. He said different markets require different storytelling. And that is, I think, the crux of this whole presentation. I think we in inbound have for too long not really depended on data at all. We've just gone by gut feel, we've gone by what we hear from the market. But I think this presentation opens the eyes that data is critical for all of us in the inbound business, because you see how beautifully he's broken down booking times. He's broken down segmentation of markets. He's broken down capacities. Now, this should be the basis of planning your programmation, your itineraries, your market segmentation. I think those days of us being in the inbound tourism with our pink files and our yellow files are all done with now, honestly. This is where, and I'm so glad Neep and Pata have taken this initiative. I think people like Ayato, people like Faith should be putting together these sort of presentations for their members. It's okay to have the annual jamboree and all of that, but this is where value is for membership. This also proves the point, we know it from ever, how sensitive are inbound businesses. You had the Far East, you got Ebola happening now, we don't know what's going to happen next. For me, it's very clear the days of long-term planning are over. You can't do long-term planning anymore. It is all short-term, and it becomes increasingly critical for us to have a plan A, plan B, and I would say even a plan C. You can't sit with one plan anymore because you don't know what's going to hit you tomorrow morning. I was very fascinated to see the market segmentation. I mean, we all know, and Kuldeep also said, solo travel, FIT, family travel. Now, it shows clearly this is the age of tailor-mades. Those days of putting group itineraries are done with, and you'll see in all destinations, it was the market share was under 10%, barring a Germany or something where it was probably slightly higher for groups, but everywhere else, group travel was under 10% of total market share. And look at the percentages for solo traveler and for family travel. So this again makes us want to rethink of making tailor-mades as our mainstay going forward. This presentation also clearly points out to me that the days of being only in leisure, I think, are over. I doubt inbound operators, knowing how India is anyway performing so poorly on the overall inbound front, I doubt you guys can stay in leisure anymore. You should have seen, I'm sure you saw the percentage of opportunity for events. Now, in India, we kept cribbing till now, we don't have convention centers. And in the last 5-7 years, you had the most amazing convention centers which have come in. You have the most amazing gateway points as airports which are developing. So leisure will have to move into the event business also. I doubt you can survive anymore in just being a leisure operator. The same goes for business. There is a huge thrust in the business segment also, and the way India is performing on the economic front proves to me that there is a market available there. The inbound operators know how to deal with foreign counterparts. There are huge business delegations coming in. So events and business growth, business segment for me is linked together. I saw one very interesting thing where it seems that the direct websites of hotels are getting some 18% bookings now, somewhere in that region. I think this used to be hardly 4%, 5%. OTAs are still strong at about 40. No, OTAs are at about 25%. And the direct business coming into hotels is at 44%. So this is a challenge, of course, you as inbound operators will have to take care of. It's an ever-going story. OTAs are good, not good, but they are here to stay. Luxury came across very, very clearly. There is a segment, and I know that inbound operators are very hesitant to offer upmarket, up-end hotels. Please don't do that. There is a paying capacity available there. Like Olivier said, those numbers are small, but they will more than make up for the effort in the billing which you will do per file. So I think India must get out from that, or inbound at least, not India. India has grown hugely in the luxury segment, but I think inbound operators have to move away from that mindset that we cannot offer upmarket hotels. There is a massive market there, especially if you're doing tailor-mades. Those people will pay whatever you want. So that's something where I would focus on. The east part of the world, the eastern part of the world for India, I think is our savior for now. Middle East and Europe and all are going to take time to come back. You saw the figures in terms of flight connectivity, in terms of market segmentation and all of that. You have amazing opportunities in that part. So change your plan, go there for the business. It's not going to happen from the Middle East. It's not going to happen from Europe for a while to come. And finally, be ready for that comeback. Both Guldeep and Olivier have said the comeback is going to happen. You can't wake up when it starts to come back. And I go back to saying plan A, plan B, plan C must be in place now. We don't know when. With Trump being Trump, you don't know whether the war is going to stop tomorrow, or the war is going to stop in 4 months. That's anybody's guess. But I think we in industry should be ready to be ready for when they come back. So very quickly, you'll get the more detailed presentation from Olivier's office. But these were just my takeaways from the presentation. And great one, Olivier. I hope other people do stuff like you're doing for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Himmat. I have to say that both Guldeep and Himmat have linked back the data that was presented by Olivier to what the reality is as far as the Indian marketplace is concerned. Needless to say, and it's elementary, my dear Watson, that the East is the place to go to as far as the Indian market is concerned at the present moment. I don't think tour operators have invested enough in the East to bring business into India, and the East is ripe, ready, and waiting, both for the East is when that lady came and sang she had a performance in Singapore. People spent up to $3,500 to come to Singapore, but the cost of air ticket, the stay, the eating, the dining, the cost of shopping, etc. Up to $3,500 was the average spend for that event. India, yes, we're a little bit removed from the rest of Asia, but having said that, I think there is a lot of opportunity for us to market ourselves to Asian communities. The Buddhist route, albeit slightly lower on the spend front, but it's a market which wants to visit India. At the same time, there are plenty of people who use the upper end of the aircraft or the front end of the aircraft and are your luxury travelers. The youth is not looking for cheap stuff. The youth is a mixed bag. There are some who will be at the bottom end, but most of them will be at the middle and upper end today because the propensity to earn has just multiplied as far as that generation is concerned. You can see it in India for yourselves that the youngsters today are not the youngsters that we were and are not surviving on those kind of salaries and incomes as we were. Today they have the money, they want to use it, they want to spend it, they want to visit new places, understand cultures, history, all of that stuff. And more than that, they even want part of the slice of adventure. So I think go east. I'm going to put a plug in here. One platform that can help you is the Para Travel Mart, which is going to take place between 18th to 20th of August in Kuching, Sarawak. There are over 170 world-class buyers coming there from different parts of the world, not just from Asia. Let me show you that. And that could be a start. That could be a beginning for many of you who have not tried those markets yet. But that's an aside. If you want more information on that, please contact me or my office, and we'll be very happy to provide you the information. So going back, I think there is a market in the US. There is a market from Europe as well, but it will take a little time in getting completely energized, given the situation in the Middle East, for it to actually start traveling into India in hordes like we have witnessed in the past. So look at Asian markets, look at Australia and New Zealand. I think Australia was already number 5 or number 6 on the list last year in terms of contributors to India as far as inbound tourism is concerned. On the outbound side, I think India is a big daddy as far as Australia and New Zealand is concerned, and several other countries in Asia Pacific. We recently also did 2 webinars, one with Korea, and the numbers which Olivier has presented indicate that Korea is a market which is looking at India for tourism both ways. And we also did a program with Australia, and the lady at Ms. Pagoto told us at that time that India is a market that Australians look at very seriously, but they want experience and they want the narrative to change, as Himmat also rightly pointed out. You can't keep on with the same old. You got to tell them stories or show them the real India, which they would not be able to get for love or for money. Thank you very much. Your questions are on the screen. Sanjeet, of course, you can ask a question if you're listening to me. But there's a question from Marie Gilia, who's from France herself, and she says, guests from Europe send queries, travel intent really, but are reluctant to book their international flight tickets now. Actual bookings are low. When the decision to book a flight is postponed, doesn't it increase the risk that flight fares will be too high later and will encourage prospects to postpone their trip by a year or 6 months or whatever? Olivier, would you like to take that?
Yes, with pleasure. Look, what we're seeing at the moment, we're seeing 2 different trends. On the one hand, we've had people waiting, delaying their trip, waiting to see how the situation in the Middle East would evolve. And when they've realized that this situation would not be solved as quickly as they hoped, they booked a different destination, right? Most of the time, a destination within the region. So when we're looking at what's happening in Europe, we're seeing an increase of intra-European travels. these people have not completely given hope on doing a trip to India. It's just that this trip is not going to happen for the very near future. The other trend we're seeing is people still hoping that the situation will improve, but booking with a lot of anticipation. So booking a trip in Q4, for example. That's also a way of securing the fares that they can find now for a trip in this period. And what we've seen in the data is that it's really the coming month that are problematic for the European market, because it's month when people should have booked at the time when those bookings should have taken place at the time when the situation in the Middle East was the most problematic. So those bookings did not take place. Therefore, those travelers will not be there in the coming in the coming month. So all of this shows that the demand is still there, but the strategies that the would-be travelers apply when making the decision to book or not to book very much depend on their perception of how easy or how likely it is for them, for their trip to be cancelled due to the geopolitical issues. So don't despair. The Europeans are still looking for trips. Some of them are still booking. We've seen that those people were mainly from the high end of the travel segment, so they are less price sensitive. To get back to your point on fares, the people who are more price sensitive are probably the ones booking with a lot of anticipation. You will see them at the destination, but you will see them more in Q4 or Q1 of next year.
Right. So that was the one question that we had. Is there anybody else?
Can I add to what Olivier said about this question, Runit?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mari, I think it's so true what you're saying. But to be truthful, this has now become all over the world. The airfares have now become dynamic. And there's just like stock exchange. You never know when what may happen, and it triggers into a downward trend, and suddenly the war gets over, and suddenly you'll see the revenge tourism happening and the fares going up. After all, the airlines have to make up to the losses. What your doubt is absolutely correct, that if they postpone their trips by 1 year, the fares will, if the normalcy returns back, they are bound to go up. So it's true. So, but the thing is, from the perspective of a traveler, they have to make a choice what they want to do, because unless the situation mellows down, they will not be able to plan the trip. But definitely, once the situation mellows down, the fares are going to go up. As I give you an example, the fares of Emirates and other Middle East airlines were at rock bottom when the war was going on. And as soon as people saw that none of the aircraft which were carrying passengers were affected, and the situation started mellowing down, the fares are now higher than any normal European carriers also. So your doubt is true.
Thank you. So I think Olivier has shared his website address on the chat. For those of you who are interested, can make a good note of that. I don't think we have any more questions. Last round. If there are no further questions, then we
Sanjeet
will
wants
close.
to ask a question, Sanjeet.
Who?
Sanjeet.
Yeah, sure. I didn't. Okay, maybe he just wants to talk about it. Go ahead, Sanjeet.
Hi, Oliver. I hope you're doing well. Just a quick question I want to ask. In fact, you, Himmat, and Guldeep, all three of you together. This is something which is we're talking about lots of things. I loved your data, which you presented, the way you've done the whole thing. But what I really need to understand is that You talk about dynamic pricing, you talk about hotels, you talk about different things. The question is, the world is changing, and that's why you have today data which was not available. But there's one thing which is bothering us and bothering me, and I thought I must ask you guys. Disruptions have become a way of life today. Today, one country could, for example, today it's the Middle East. Earlier it was Russia. Somewhere it could be some other country. That's what's basically going to happen. I remember a time when Himmat would bail me out on that earlier, if there was a small bomb blast in south of India or somewhere, the whole country, we used to get advisories from different countries saying that don't travel there at all. The whole country was actually punished because of that reason. But now I think things are changing. So now where does your data take us as far as disruptions are concerned? Does it really tell you that this is what people are thinking as far as disruptions are concerned? And with it, I want to ask all three of you is, does the travel and tourism industry have any responsibility towards disruption? Or we are just going to live with it? Because I personally feel time has come where the traveler is prepared to live with disruption. Even if there are things over there, they're still prepared to travel. But as the industry, do we have any responsibility towards them? The airlines will charge you the money. The hotels, whenever there's a major thing, they'll look into other situations, to solve a problem. But my question is, where are we going now in the future with disruptions? Thanks. Oliver, over to you first.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you for the question. I think it's an excellent point that you've just raised. We're seeing more and more disruptions, and I think we will see more and more of them in the future. So does the travel and tourism industry have to live with it? I think that the answer is yes. And I think the visitors are ready to live with it as well. What we're seeing on a global scale is that travel demand is extremely resilient. People want to travel. They still have the money to travel. So when disruptions happen, what is happening is that travel preferences change. People adapt to the new situation, but they keep traveling. So the key challenge for the industry, wherever, I'm not just talking about India, is to, first of all, have a way to keep your finger on the pulse of travel so that when a major disruption happens, you know where to pivot. You have access to the information that will help you identify the opportunities that exist today, like the ones that I've shared with you in the presentation, so that you can seize these opportunities, identify them, seize them, and then have the right organization within your company to quickly pivot and reallocate the resources that you had planned for market X, if market X is not available now, and seize an opportunity on a very short term. It's not just a matter of money. It's not just a matter of data. It's also a matter of having your organization work in a very agile, very flexible way. And this is something that all of you, whatever the size of the company, should be working on. How ready are you to seize the opportunities when they arise and shift your focus based on what's happening in the world. We have the tools now, and I'm not talking just about the Amadeus, just the tools that we at Amadeus offer. In general, the travel industry has tools at its disposal that it did not have in the past. And those tools make it so much easier to understand what to do when, who to target, and really drill down to a level of precision, a level of detail that was impossible in the past. There are some key segments you can identify, and we also have the tools to help you target those segments. So I briefly mentioned media solutions. What does this mean? Well, it means that you, as an operator, as a destination, can identify the segment that represents the biggest opportunity for you, and you can send your message to those travel agents, for example, that are particularly working with the segment that is essential for your business. Today, all of this is possible and can be put in place at a very, very fast pace. So make use of all those new opportunities. I'm actually surprised we haven't mentioned the word AI since the beginning of this webinar. It's quite uncommon. Of course, there are plenty of new opportunities offered by AI, also in the way you can not only get access to the data, but also interpret this data so that it answers the business needs that you have identified for your business today. I'll stop here because you could start a whole new webinar on this topic. Thank you so much, Sanjeet, for having asked the question.
Guldeep, you want to respond?
Guldeep also say a few things.
Sure, Sanjeet. I was looking at the time, so I will just go quickly over this. For sure, it is our responsibility to take care of our customer. What you asked me, to know the political situation around the world, it is always better to, when that war started, there was a lot of bookings happening towards Europe. There was a lot of booking happening to Middle East also. Now, those people came to us and we did our best to get the cancellation waived or whatever we could do, and then design the packages to send them to countries which are safer. And we did that. Our long-haul sector has increased a lot towards Australia. With in hand in glove with another agent, we are doing a group of 250 people to Australia, and the whole group is going in another 1 month's time. So things are our responsibility comes from this aspect of knowledge and gain. And of course, what Manish Dwivedi is asking is, his point is correct that of course we can focus on domestic travel, but this webinar is based more on inbound and outbound. For that, definitely, there is no doubt domestic is going on and it's increasing day by day. We don't have to do much about that, but focus can be done on that. But outbound responsibility is definitely on our shoulders also when a customer comes to us. Sanjeet, does that answer your question?
Himmat?
Wait a second. Let's hear Himmat first.
So Sanjeet, as usual, is not in the country, I'm sure. I can see the backdrop is somewhere else. This guy's never around here.
No marks for
So
guessing.
on a lighter and on a sarcastic note, I think our inbound arrival numbers are anyway so dismal. Whether anything happens overseas, doesn't happen overseas, I don't think we can get worse than where we are. I mean, 10 million people arrivals is a joke for this country any which way. So how much worse can you get? That's one part of the thing, of the story. When I look at the more pan-India overall tourism scenario, with domestic travel being what it is, inbound is anyway not a priority anyway for us. As a country, as a government, as an industry, it is not a priority for us. So when you look at all of this, Sanjeet, I really wonder if something happens overseas, okay, this 10 million will come down to 9 million, then it'll go back to 10.2 million. We'll play around this 10 million number. And I very firmly believe India as a destination, and we heard the tourism minister say that by 2047, we will have 100 million arrivals. 100 million. We are at 10 million, struggling at 10 million just now. So if that is the vision of this country, and if that is the stories we have to tell each other and pat ourselves in the back, I really wonder how serious are we about inbound tourism. So yeah, that's my take on inbound. I won't say RIP inbound as yet, but yeah, we are at a borderline really.
Okay, so but my point is, do you think we will, even if there is disruption in India, for example, earlier, if you remember, there used to be a bomb blast in South India, North India, the whole country used to get stuck with the advisories. Now, will this continue, or you think this is now that's over with? So whatever can happen,
that's done with. I think the world has seen too much, and thanks to social media and the internet, I think our attention span is so short. Within 2 weeks, you forget what's happened. So I think this will pass over very quickly. It's a matter of a few weeks. And like all other speakers have said, the comeback will be fast. You call it revenge, you call it whatever, rebound, whatever you want to call it. But I think our memories as society, as human beings, forget just tourism and events happening globally. I think within our own selves as society, our attention span is very short. We forget what happened last week. So yeah, I don't think it matters anymore for us. It doesn't matter.
All right. Thank you, Himmat. Thank you, Guldeep. And thank you, Oliver. My question's over. Sorry. Over to you, Runeep.
So there's a question for Himmat from Prateek Hira. Your views on how industry can come together on its own when the government is not supportive. And industry is facing a tough time, particularly with inbound tourism. Your candid views. I think he's already stated his candid view.
Yeah, so Prateek Hira is one of the guys who honestly is always in the front for inbound tourism, right? Be it for Uttar Pradesh where he's based and for IATO and India, Pan India. So he's one of those good guys up front. Prateek, you and me know it. I mean, government, let's forget, right? From where we've come to where I don't think the government is really interested in inbound at all. And I say it very clearly at every session without making any bones. The overseas marketing budget many years ago used to be at some 700 crore rupees, if I'm not mistaken. It's down to 3 crores. Huh? 300? Yeah, in the good old days it was 600-700 crores when Incredible India was at its peak. We are now to 3 crores as overseas marketing budget. You can't sell, that can't be the budget for a place like Delhi, forget globally. So, Prateek, I think association, and again, this is a topic we've been discussing at least for 20 years now. Why can't we do the Sri Lanka model? First, we asked for the overseas tourism offices to be closed down because we wanted to give it to another model. The government closed it down, but they haven't given us the other model. So you're again on the back foot there also. So yeah, Prateek, these are known things. I think industry will have to get together. But remember, to promote tourism, you have to put your money where your mouth is. And I don't think industry is ready to put the money where the mouth is. They want everything, but they're not willing to put in the money. So if you want an aggressive tourism thing happening for the country, please start putting the money, create a corpus fund, and use that money for promotion. Don't wait for the government to do it for you. That's the only way out. I think our associations are there, all well-meaning. We know what to do. What we are missing is funding.
I think Mahendra Vakharia is making a point that the government of India's budget for promotion of international tourism is 3 crores, and Gujarat's this thing is 5 for medical tourism alone. Yes, Sanjeev, you want to say something?
No, it's 0. Sorry, it's 0. It's not 3.
Okay. So, the media always knows more than the rest of us do. So I'll buy that for now.
Okay.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Olivier, thank you ever so much. And I think we will look at a webinar on disruptions not too far away from today, and a couple of other ideas which I'm sure will emerge between the team in India, and we will get back to you. But again, thank you for your time. Thank you for the effort that you put in to bring facts and figures, and what the reality check is as far as India is concerned. So people need to look at plan A, B, and maybe plan C as well as they go forward. Disruptions will continue to happen. There is no shortage of opportunity for that to take place. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.